So I promised to react to the rest of the comments and let's go. So this is from the video with the Egyptian guy, and we shall see here. This is a comment from that video. He says, Charles King, Rahotep and Nofret should not have been allowed to enter within the discourse of this video because the Rahotep and Nofret statues are fake. And again, this is something that a lot of people believe, and it's a perfectly valid argument, I think. Now, obviously, to me, it's not necessarily fake because I could see how, even though I could see some reconstruction done, that it could still be real and whatever. But we would have to go deeper into the conversation. I would need to check how the people decide that it's fake, because the Nefertiti one, I went into detail with it before, and if you look at it, it's like it doesn't even match the others. In fact, let's look at two pictures of Nefertiti, one with the bust and one with the side view or front view from her drawings. So I want to remind you, we're in the Armana period. So everything kind of looks weird like this. I've seen a lot of people compare themselves to this image, but what people don't realize is that this is an exaggeration. It's not an accurate depiction of a human being. So if you can find someone who looks like this is not a sign that that human being actually looks like this. These are depictions of Nefertiti and Akhenaten, so you can see them from the side. They're all doing the same weird look in the face and shape. So compare these two. So both of these people are both Nefertiti. You can see the similarities, of course, in terms of image, but there are some obvious things that jump out at you. The second one is much finer in appearance. In other words, everything is a little edgy. So the first one has got like a broader nose, thicker lips, bigger ears, obviously. The eyes sort of make sense compared to the rest of the face. And basically, you can tell that this is when she was an older woman. The second one, the problem is, one, it comes across as like very Roman, right? Not Nefertiti. The hat and everything is sort of straight down. Look at the neck of the second one, very natural, like how a real human's head is like. Whereas the second one, the bust of Nefertiti, you can tell that there's something going on that is more. It's almost like an upside down pyramid. You get the feeling that you're looking at something that a fan made, a fan of Egypt, throwing in some Egyptianness in there, like an upside down pyramid. So the next comment is from I Need a Good Name 8, which is a good name. Lol, is he for real, brothers? But treats the dark skinned people of Egypt poorly, anything but to use tomb drawing. Lol. Oh, the 360 was crazy. Yeah, so the 360 in that video is absolutely crazy. And I think, after seeing some of it, because I've actually been on his page recently, seeing a lot of it, I think he actually didn't care that much about the race later on. But this is what usually happens, where they're taught by the people, the elders in their community, to care a lot about race and then defend it from the other Africans. So the next comment is the usual look, how they depict sub-Saharans tactics. They were depicting Nilo-Saharan stereotypes to highlight their differences. Egyptian universally depict themselves as black people. Even the white Libyan depictions have African hairstyles and clothing. The light-skinned black look is common in the Americas. Among the diaspora, Libya were at least mulatto. So obviously, I would agree with a lot of what you're saying over there. But let's repeat it from the beginning so we can answer everything properly. So it says the usual look, how they depict sub-Saharan Africans tactic. They were depicting Nilo-Saharan stereotypes to highlight their differences. So of course, what we do know, and this is a fact, is that there's two types of sub-Saharans, if you want to call them that, in Egypt that we can talk about instantly, where we know these are two different types of people. Those are Cushitic people, right? So people who are Cushites, we know that they're black people who are there till today, and then we know there's Nilo-Saharans there. These are two different types. We know these two types are also there in Libya as well. It's not a coincidence that they're on both sides of this. So when looking at this conversation in that way, you start to get the feeling that, of course, people are going to depict each other different. I mean, Africans, if Nilo-Saharans came to South Africa, which they did, by the way, and we started depicting them, we would depict them very different than we would depict ourselves. Just like how Khoisan people depicted Zulu people when they were running away, they depicted them as much darker and much taller. So stereotypes to highlight their differences. And again, it was stereotypes of war, because when war was gone, they would depict them as the same as the Egyptians. Because of course, Nilo-Saharans, even though they can be very, very dark, you know, once you avoid the sun, blah blah blah, you start to have a sort of brownish look about you. Egyptians universally depicted themselves as black people. Even the white Libyans depiction have African hair, which is true, which again goes back to what I was saying about, for the most part, remember, that Roman wrote that the Garamantes are black or Ethiopian for the most part. That for the most part, I don't just throw it away. It means there's a part of them that is not Ethiopian. That doesn't necessarily mean it's Middle Eastern, could be Egyptian, could be whatever. The next one is hairstyles and clothing. Yes, right. The light skinned black look is common in the Americas among the diaspora. That's true as well. Libyans were at least mulatto. Yep. Well, they are now, definitely. So the next question is, just ask him why Ramses III has a black African haplogroup. Uh, well, we all know the answer to that question, which again is even more interesting because the haplogroup that he is in, or the haplotype that he's in, is West African, which is surprising because Nilo-Saharans aren't necessarily West African. Well, not the type that, you know, not the type that Ramses the Third is, which increases this thing that there were more than one type of black people in Egypt, which is not surprising at all. The next comment is, here we go, lol. Yep, here we go again. So the next comment says, he shot himself on the foot in the last part. Now he just pissed off everyone. Why go out of your way calling Afro Americans liars and then admit they were onto something? I don't know. I'm not against people changing their minds. Those are two completely different videos. You must remember that they're from completely different times. And the guy, if I can throw in something there, he actually requested people to give him evidence, or if there is evidence. And since people started giving him evidence, he sort of changed his mind. So I give him credit for that part, at least. So the next question is, everything he posted as proof are all faux. So obviously you're gonna need more uh timestamps and direct places so that I can react to it properly. Which parts do you think are completely fake? Because sometimes some people post things that are like, that don't make sense. So the next one is, the temple with the Nubian procession. Are those people really Nubian? They are dressed like the Egyptian, with the men wearing the same white skirt the male Egyptians wore, is the proof that those are not Egyptians. Okay, so let's first discuss this thing, because this one is always a big conversation. So if you're black, especially if you're from Africa, something that you will notice is, even if your entire family is light skinned black, you could come out black. Your entire family could look like, Will Smith or anyone like that. So you've got these light skinned black people in there, and then all of a sudden you come out, dark. Pick any dark person to throw in there. And the reason why this happens is because it's always still in there, no matter what. But this is not recognized as a real thing by people who don't belong to the black races. And so what they do is they go, okay, so if everyone is black, then why are the people be standing behind her not black? And the answer is they're just lighter skinned than she is. That's it. That's how what happens in the black community. And when they're depicting it, they're trying to highlight that difference. And then of course they say, "Oh, this is a Nubian." It's like, nope, it's not a Nubian. We've checked; it's not a Nubian. And they always do that. If they find people who kind of look like black people, instead of saying, you know, "Oh, there's some black people in ancient Egypt," they could even just say some. They don't need to say a million, 1,000. They can just say some of them there. Instead, what they do is they say, no, that's got to be a Nubian of some kind. In fact, I saw one that kind of looked like an Asiatic. This is a very old one. It kind of looked like an Asiatic. And instead of saying, okay, maybe some of them look like Asiatics, as I say, they they say, oh, the guy must have been foreign from like very far away. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to start making up someone's history. By the way, the one that I'm talking about has never been proven to be Asiatic at all. In fact, not full DNAs, but test DNAs have been done, and he's related to other people. So he's related to like Tutankhamun and other people, and so it's possible, very possible, that person who's not a pharaoh or anything is very likely to just be another Egyptian. But I'm saying that to say there are some people who have questioned the history, the full history of that family, saying that part of that family must have come from elsewhere, perhaps even Asia. The comment says, I'm sure other people have pointed this out, but that Nofret and Rahotep statues are fake. Here's the thing. I want you guys to comment on this video, and I want you guys to give me exact arguments for why you think it's fake. And it can't be, it just looks fake. I understand, again, people saying that it's fake, but I need a better stuff than that. And I have seen other people say it, but I can't go by other people's word. By the way, don't get me wrong. Nofret and Rahotep, I understand that it's a standout concerning the ancient Egyptians. It doesn't look the same as any of the other Egyptian statues. Like, none of them are that clean or that type at all. If you look at all the seated couples in ancient Egypt, they kind of suck in the way they're drawn. Like, ancient Egyptians could depict themselves way better than that. And then all of a sudden there's a Rahotep one and Nofret one, and they look really, really like modern. There's something off about it. I put that there. So the next question is, does he realize that he resembles the Asian depiction? He can't seriously be aligning himself with the Egyptian. You know how everybody looks like a certain way, and of course no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear everybody like this is Middle Eastern, everybody like this is African. People don't want to hear that. The next comment is, the brainwashing is sad. I don't think it's 100% racism, just born into a culture that taught him these were his ancestors, although for some people it's both brainwashing and racism. So of course we're very familiar with racism, and we also know that a lot of people are willing participants of this racist world, this racist culture. So we can't let people off as if it's like accidentally done sometimes. Now, I wouldn't put him necessarily like on the furthest part of the spectrum of racism, but there are some people who are very problematic, which I will not mention names. The next comment says, that guy does not look white. Now, I don't know which guy you're talking about. Are you talking about the guy who's talking, or are you talking about someone in the video? Because the guy definitely doesn't look white. He looks like a Middle Eastern guy. So the next comment is, Rahatep and Nofret statues are most definitely fake. Professor Manu Umpin has demonstrated a dozen points on why there also is a postcard dated 2 years prior to the discovery of the statue in 1871, showing the woman who was the inspiration for Nofret. Okay, so anybody can go to the Instagram that's linked on my channel. Make sure you go there and link me some of these videos so I can react to them myself. Feel free, by the way, if you feel like there's something I've missed or I haven't seen. There was an older Instagram that I had, but I took it down. I don't really use that one anymore. Go to the channel, look it up. I might link it as well, and send me. Next one, red flag. He don't consider African Americans as Africans because they're not on the African continent. You don't have to necessarily be on the continent of Africa to be an African. True facts. Or of African descent, no different from a European American and an Asian American. Also, what's pretty funny about this is even using the autosomal DNA of modern North Africans and modern North Americans, they're actually genetically more African in descent than modern North Africans. On average, Egyptians and other North African DNA is over 60 to 70% Eurasian and 20 to 30% African. Meanwhile, on average, for African Americans, they're at least 70 to 90% African and 20 to 5% Eurasian, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. So it's rich saying they're not African, just American, when genetically that's incorrect. So, true facts. All of that is just incorrect. We all know, of course, what it means to be racially African, and we know what it means to be just on the continent of Africa. And the people who are racially African, because they were sort of made in Africa, obviously African Americans are part of them. In fact, African Americans would blend easily. Like any African American that has gone back to the continent of Africa and just fused with the culture. Let's take Liberians are a perfect example. Liberians have just fused with the culture of Africa. They can't even really tell that their history was from America as well. Actually, they can because they still hold traditions, the way they talk. A lot of the stuff that we consider, Western that hits South Africa and those places. I mean, now because of the internet, they hit early, but even the way they talked, the new slang and everything, it hit Liberia first, and then it would hit South Africa and all these other places because Liberia was like a second part of African America. So that was the final comment that was on its own completely. So I'll be honest, I do love doing these commentary videos, the ones where you comment. And if you don't mind, I want to go back to reacting to more than one comment. So of course, the other video I skipped the people who wrote 6 or 7 comments because I think you can just get it all in one. But I will go back to reacting. So you can comment as much as you want. Please, in this video, put it in because I want to make another video on the comments. All these things that you have, like this is fake, that is fake. I don't like this one. I don't thingy. I think those ones are the most important because there's a lot of stuff that I miss that I don't look at because I'm so focused. I mean, you guys can probably tell on my channel, I'm so focused on specific details that I think people need to focus on, and they're just challenges to the other side. Like, okay, make this go away. If I'm wrong about what I'm saying, make this part go away. And when they can't make it go away, they have to just stop and hold their hands up and go, well, I guess you're right about that part. Anyway, I don't ask this a lot. Like, share, subscribe, donate, anything like that would be much appreciated. Thank you very much. This is a shorter video, but again, more questions means longer. And again, I do want to gather information while I answer the questions, not just to look at a question. When it calls for it, I put it on camera, look at it, even a video if I have to, and go, okay, this part, this part, this part. So I was gonna react to this video live. I was planning on reacting on two videos live because usually my YouTube, and I don't know why, but it starts lagging after 2 hours, and then you have to just give up. But I was gonna react to this video live, but I guess it's just something that we have to deal with. It's about IShowSpeed. So while every American is celebrating how basically awesome Africa looked, some people decided to take this opportunity to pretend that IShowSpeed is part of some great conspiracy to make Africa look better.
Okay, that shows how they play us like we're stupid. They're sitting up here acting like Speed is just a normal black American. Like, oh, he's this normal black American who has, man, yeah, he's got a little following, but you know, he gets treated like this because he's a black American, and we just love black Americans. That's cap, family. Speed is a international superstar. He's one of the top streamers, if not the number one streamer in the world. Okay, people love Speed. Speed gets this type of treatment wherever he goes. This is not some type of special treatment just because he's in Africa. Because that's another thing they keep trying to push. Oh, if we're treating him like this because he's just this black American, he will only get this type of treatment in Africa. No, family. And here's some receipts, family.
So basically, he's going to go in on these people who are saying that IShowSpeed is evident has shown evidence that Africa is developed, but instead of going after that part, he's going to go after the part that they like him because he's a celebrity, which is true, right? Obviously, they like him because he's a celebrity, but because it shows that Africans don't really hate African Americans like that, like most of the people, they're not sitting there doing anything. He's going to show other places like Peru or whatever, Finland, and then go see he gets treated differently there. That means, which would be a good argument if those very same countries didn't have racial stereotypes being thrown at him. I mean, you might remember there was a song that the Koreans made that had the N word in it and all of that, and that's the treatment he gets outside of Africa. But if you're black and you come to Africa, you might be treated wrong for other reasons, but it's not going to be because you're black.